Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maureen Mulhern. I'm the Director of Career Development here. Welcome to STAC. Hopefully you guys have had a great day so far. I know it's probably been what have you been here since like 10:30, 10 o'clock? Okay. So hopefully you enjoyed lunch, and I'm here to talk to you today about dressing professionally, and you'll notice that the title of my presentation is more than that because dress is very important in general, but right down to the way you present yourself with a smile or how confident you come off. There's a lot to be said about being a professional, and I know you guys are a really important group of students. You're in the Academy of Finance. I know you all did internships already, which is wonderful. You've put yourselves, no? Oh, okay, sorry. Next summer you're doing, okay, good. So then what I talk to you about today is going to be helpful for you when you're either going on an interview for these internships, when you're going to the internship. I'm going to talk a little bit about this later, but want to emphasize, once you get the internship, it's still important to make sure you're dressing professionally. I know I spoke with Mr. Ali earlier about, they do a review on you after you complete that internship, and one of the things they might highlight is, were you dressed professionally when you showed up at that internship every day? So it's not just about the interview, it's also about when you're on the job doing this internship, you are being evaluated at all times. I just had KPMG here right prior to this. We had an event in this room. KPMG is one of the big 4 accounting firms, and one of the things they were saying is, when you're on an internship, it's like an ongoing interview. They are watching what you do. They're looking to see, are you a go-getter, or are you a person who kind of just sits there and is, staring at your phone because you have nothing to do. The ones that are going to leave the great impression, and the ones that they may eventually look at for coming back to their firm for another internship or a job when you guys graduate college, are the ones who go above and beyond, the ones who do more than what's expected, the ones who, when they have nothing to do, will say, you know what, I've got nothing on my plate right now. Is there something I can get involved with? Can I help you with something? Or tell them what projects you'd like to get involved in. So it's a long conversation, and that's not really what I'm here for today, but I do wish you guys luck with that process, and hopefully some of the tips I share today will help you. So I will talk about ways to be a professional and develop yourself as a professional at North Rockland High School, so you have 2 years left there, and even beyond North Rockland High School. Then I'm going to just share some basic tips, and then we'll get into the Dress for Success. So, as I said, you guys are a very special group of students. You're in the Academy of Finance, which is wonderful in and of itself. You've already taken steps to develop yourselves professionally. One of the things that I would recommend you do, and this goes for high school and once you get into college, is try to get involved. I would guess that many of you are already either in leadership roles or involved in activities and clubs, and that's great, because when you're looking at colleges, they're going to be looking to see, what have you done beyond just get great grades in high school? How have you developed yourself as a well-rounded person? So leadership is a wonderful characteristic. Not everybody is a leader, but I think sometimes you are a leader and you may not even realize it. So sometimes it's good to try things out. If you have the opportunity to be a treasurer, secretary, a president of a club, sometimes it's good to push yourself, because you may find that you were much more capable than what you maybe thought you could do. And colleges love to see leadership. Once you're in college and you're starting to apply for jobs and internships, employers love to see leadership. So I would encourage you to consider getting involved in a leadership role if you're not doing something like that already. Also, you should consider volunteering. So North Rockland High School, I'm sure, has lots of great opportunities for you to get involved in community service, volunteering. Maybe there's something going on at the school and they need volunteers. Take advantage of those things. It's going to get you recognized among the faculty and the administration. I'm calling faculty, your professors and the administration there. And getting involved in community service is going to look great for your resume when you're applying to colleges. And again, I say the same thing to the college students here. It's great for when you're applying for a job. You know, it says something about your character, but it also is just a nice thing for you in general. Sometimes it teaches you a lot about yourself and what's important in life. So definitely would consider getting involved at school and outside of school. Okay, so I already talked a little bit about interning, but what do you guys know about internships? I want to kind of get an idea of what you think an internship is. Anybody? Yes.
Like learning about the job.
Yeah, it's a great way to kind of try out a career. What else is an internship? Why would you do an internship? Yes. It can be paid or not paid. Yeah, for sure. And both usually are very valuable experiences. You know, sometimes you might do an internship and you think you want to, for example, get into finance, and you intern at a bank maybe, and you do it over the summer, and you realize at the end of it, that really isn't something I enjoy. It may teach you what you don't want to do. It may help you get some direction, steering away from what you thought maybe you wanted to do. Or on the other hand, you may love it, and now you have some clarity, like, this is really what my goal is. I want to work for this kind of organization. I want to do that kind of work. So it's important to do an internship to just understand what it's like to work in that career field. What else is great about an internship? Yes.
You make like connections with people.
Yes. So 70 to 80% of job leads comes through connections. So building those connections, even in high school, are important. You never know when you may want to reach out to those people. You might have a great internship experience and find that when you're in college, you want to go back there and try a different role in that same company. And you may have met, either your supervisor could help you, or you may have met some other key people in the organization that you hopefully will maintain a relationship with, and be able to reach out and say, hey, I'm coming home from college this summer. I'd love to get involved in an internship in the blah, blah, blah group. Is there any way that that would be possible? And that person, hopefully, because they know you, they may have seen what a great job that you've done in your other internship role there, might then plug you into the right person to get into that company. Any other thoughts about interning? There's something else nobody has said yet. So, okay, so I'll tell you. When you're applying for colleges, these internships are going to look great on your resume. When you are looking for a job, these internships are going to look great on your resume. You guys are definitely a unique group because I don't see a lot of high school students doing internships, and that's kind of what's going to put you above the rest. So I say the same thing to the college students, and when you all are in college, I hope you do this as well. You should be doing a few internships if possible in that 4-year span. And most companies are not going to hire you as an intern once you graduate. So you have a 4-year window when you're in college, and you are fortunate enough to be doing an internship in high school. Your resumes are going to look very competitive. Because when you leave college, you're going to apply for jobs, and lots of other college kids are going to be applying for the same job. And what's going to happen is they're going to look at the resumes, and if this person didn't do any internships, this person did a few internships, who do you think that they're really going to want to talk to and bring in for the interview? Right, exactly. So you guys are definitely on the right path, and will be way ahead of everybody else with the internships next summer. Okay, so I guess I gave you some of the answers on that side. The other thing is, if you have an opportunity, I'm not sure, does North Rockland High School do any study abroad? Okay, so when you get to college, you will have the opportunity in most cases to study abroad. And usually that's for like a semester, sometimes it's over the winter break, sometimes it's in the summer. If not everybody is interested in travel internationally, but I will tell you that is definitely a great thing. You get to experience other cultures. you're learning possibly another language depending on where you go and what you're studying. But again, companies, when you leave the college, are going to see that as a unique experience that might set you above the person who didn't do something like that. So I would encourage you to check out your study abroad programs when you get to college. Definitely will give you yet another advantage. Okay, so I kind of started to talk about this earlier. When opportunity knocks, so if, let's say, Mr. Ellie came to you and said, you know what, we're going to be doing this program in 2 weeks, and we need some students to help us out with this. You know, you have been such an asset here. We would love to have you be one of those students representing our school. You don't want to turn those kinds of invitations down. And I know sometimes, you know, you might not be the person who wants to be out there, and, you know, you might be a person who prefers to kind of sit in the background. But I would, again, encourage you to push yourself to do a little bit more than you think you're capable of. If the faculty or the professor is saying to you that they think you're capable, then you probably are capable. So I would recommend take advantage, because again, it will give you exposure to possibly some very key people. It also will impress your teacher and the administration at the high school, and it's a great thing you can put on your resume, again, making you stand apart from the rest of the people. Okay, so sometimes you're not going to be asked. Maybe you're a little quieter and the teacher doesn't know you as well, and so they didn't ask you to be a part of something. I would tell you, don't let that stop you from getting involved. So look for the opportunities. There are going to be things where they just want volunteers in general. Take advantage of that. If people see that you're the one always volunteering, they're going to start to recognize you as a person that they can count on, and they possibly will then ask you down the road. And all these things, again, are going to enhance what you have to put on your resume when you're applying for colleges. And again, when you're in college and you're looking to get another internship or job. So don't sit back and say, well, nobody asked me, so I'm not going to do anything. Look for opportunities and take advantage of them. Okay, so any questions or thoughts or comments so far? Okay. So the next thing I want to do is just give you a couple of basic tips. When you are applying for internships, applying for jobs down the road, or even when you're applying for college, if you expect there might be a call coming in, you want to make sure that your phone message is professional. So I know it's fun and it's popular to have those ringtones on your phone, but remember, if you're giving out your phone number to a college or to an employer that might call you up to have you come in and interview for an internship, you don't want to have that ringtone be what they hear, because employers have told me, and I'm sure colleges feel the same, they got a lot of people to contact. If they call and they're sitting for a minute listening to a ringtone, they move on to the next person because they don't want to sit there listening to the music forever. So it should be a professional greeting. You know, give your name. I'm sorry I missed your call right now. Please leave a message and I'll get back to you. Just keep it professional. And this is, again, when you're applying for things, you want to be mindful. So change it. You can always change it back once you get the position and you're all set. The other thing is when you call an employer, let's say you all applied for your internships, the employer calls, leaves you a voicemail, and you want to call them back. You get their voicemail. You want to be very professional when you get the call. So if it's, let's say, John Smith, you don't call up and say, "Hi, John, this is Maureen. I got your message. Give me a call back." That's not professional. You could do that with your friends, but first of all, you never want to call an employer by their first name. You want to make sure it's always Mr. or Miss. So, "Hi, Mr. Smith. This is Maureen Mulhern. I'm returning your phone call. My number is blah, 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 blah. I'm calling you back with regards to the interview that you had called me about yesterday. And I oftentimes will repeat the phone number because a lot of times, I don't know if this has happened to you, but someone leaves you a phone number, you start to write it down, you don't catch the last number, so I always say, again, my number is blah, 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 blah. I look forward to hearing back from you. So just keep that in mind when you're looking for these internships. You always want to keep it very professional. Okay, so I know your generation, it does a lot on social media. You guys are texting. Our generation is texting too now. But you want to be careful when you are reaching out to an employer. Let's say you get the internship and now you've gotten to know your supervisor. That doesn't mean everything's casual, super casual. You don't want to start sending them the little text like something, for whatever reason you need to get in touch with them, and you start sending them these different text speak. You don't want to do that in email correspondence. I think a lot of this is probably obvious to you guys, but keep in mind that that is not considered professional when you're talking to people in the work world. Be careful with all the emojis. And you don't want to text your boss last minute with this text speak. Hey, sup, not going to be there today, sick. Again, these are not your friends. You may develop a friendship, but you need to always keep this on a professional level. So when you do get these internships, maybe you do feel sick one day, that morning, phone call. Don't text. Don't email. I've spoken with employers, and I can tell you if someone's working for me, I don't want to get a text or an email. I may not check my email for 3 hours. If you're supposed to be here at noon and you email me at 11:45, I don't necessarily get that email. So now I'm like wondering, where is Susie Smith, who was supposed to be here? So you do want to make sure you phone call. People appreciate that, and it's timely. The other thing I'll tell you is if something comes up, let's say you guys are doing your internships in the summer and you want to take a week's vacation with your family, that normally is fine, but you should either be upfront with that once you accept the offer. You just say, I just want to let you know my family does go on vacation every year for a week. Is it okay if I take this week off? And in most cases, I think that the supervisor or whoever you're speaking with will be fine with that and will appreciate that you were upfront so they can schedule around it. If something comes up, let's say your family says to you, in 2 weeks we decided we're going to go visit Aunt Susie, and it wasn't pre-planned, as soon as you find out about it, you want to have a conversation with your boss and just say, I just wanted to let you know my family has this opportunity to do this, and have a discussion. You don't know what their response is going to be, but in most cases I think they'd be fine with that, and they will appreciate and respect the fact that you came to them early instead of contacting them that morning or the Friday before you're going to leave and just say, oh, forgot to tell you we're going to go on vacation, I won't be in next week. It's just not professional. Okay. So when you're at work, when you're at your internship, you want to have minimum phone calls, personal phone calls, and texting. And that's just out of respect for you're supposed to be there working. If something comes up, obviously, you have to take a call, then fine. But if your supervisor sees that you're constantly on the phone and you're constantly texting, it is not going to be impressive. And, going forward, if you ever wanted to go back there, they might think twice about having you. They also, like I said, when they fill out the form for Mr. Ali, at the end, that might be a comment they make that, this person came in every day and kind of just sat there texting or, So they are watching what's going on. Even if your supervisor is not around and not watching you, I will guarantee you the other people in the office are watching. And they may mention it in passing to your supervisor that I noticed that your intern's always texting or on the phone. So keep that in mind. Even though you don't think eyes are on you at all times. Okay. And the other thing, if you have to send a cover letter or a resume to get this internship, you want to make sure you spell check it and you want to do a grammar check. I would recommend after that, have a few people eyeball it and kind of give you their feedback. Because, for example, there is spelled 3 ways. So the spell check might not pick up on it. But if somebody's looking at it, they may realize, hey, that's not the proper way of spelling there that you had on that. So it's very important. It's a reflection of your writing and your professionalism. Always take that extra step. Okay. So when you are meeting an employer, so when you go in for an interview to get your internship, you always want to be professional. Introduce yourself. So you might come into the office and they may say, okay, Mr. Smith is going to meet with you in a minute. He's still doing something. Have a seat. You may, first of all, as a side note, whoever greets you, if it's the secretary, the receptionist, always be professional. Don't discount anyone because they're not the person you're interviewing with. You should always be friendly, polite, introduce yourself, nice to meet you, because that secretary or receptionist is probably going to talk to the person who interviewed you after, and they're either going to say, when they came in, they kind of seemed grumpy, didn't say anything to me, just sat down, kind of a little bit rude. Or they're going to say, I was impressed when that intern came in. They were so nice. They introduced themselves, very polite. So keep that in mind. Every person you meet with could have a say in what other people are going to think about you, the first impression. So always take advantage of introducing yourself. And when you do want to give a firm handshake. So have you ever had someone shake your hand and they grab your fingertips and it's just kind of like as they call it, like a wet fish kind of? So what do you think? When someone shakes your hand that way, what do you think? Anybody? Thoughts? Huh? Yeah, it's a weak handshake. It doesn't seem like they're showing a lot of confidence there. You got to get right in there, really shake hands, like thumb to thumb. So keep that in mind. You don't want to get too crazy with it where you're kind of like shaking someone's arm off. That's a little bit too much. But you want to give a firm handshake. And while you're shaking someone's hand, you should be maintaining eye contact too. That's all showing confidence. So when you go for that interview for your internship, and this is for anything in life, if you go into a new class and you meet your teacher, you're walking in, you give that teacher a handshake and say, nice to meet you, Mr. Ali. You're going to leave an impression on him. Because most students, I would guess, and I know I was guilty of this, probably walk in, head down, get into my seat, not even think anything about it. But you really make an impression on someone if you are the type of person who actually will walk up, shake their hand, introduce yourself. Okay. So, as I said, maintain eye contact. And that's same when you're in an interview. You should be maintaining eye contact while you're in the interview, while you're talking. You don't want to be the person, which I have interviewed people like this, that's kind of looking down. You ask them a question, they're looking at the desk, they're looking at their feet. You want them to be looking into your eye while they're talking with you. Again, shows confidence. And smile. Don't be afraid to smile. So when you're on an interview, I've been on many interviews in my lifetime, and I am a nervous wreck before I go in there and when I get in there. And, sometimes I think people think you have to almost be robotic and just answer the question, just sit there. You don't show any personality whatsoever. You should smile and be yourself, but don't, this isn't your best friend. But definitely a smile is very welcoming. I know there's a lot to be said about a smile, but if you think about it, if you see a stranger and they've got like an annoyed look on their face or like kind of a blah look, how do you feel about talking to that person as compared to the person who's smiling? It makes a big difference. I feel those kinds of people are more approachable and they almost exude positivity. So I would definitely not discount the value of smiling when you meet people. And also, thank you. So at the end of an interview, you're going to leave. I would recommend that you all, of course, firm handshake, thank them for their time and the opportunity to come in and speak with them. And then you want to ask them for their business card, because you do want to send a thank you note when you get back.
Can you say that one more time?
Which part?
What do you need to always get?
The business card. So I'll tell you why that's important. I was in your shoes at one point, and I remember the first few interviews I went on, again, nervous wreck. I go in, the person introduces themselves. I've forgotten within 2 seconds what that person's name is, because I'm so worried about what they're going to ask me, what I'm going to say. I'm not registering the name. And that's just me. I'm sure there's other people that are like that, but regardless, even if you take the name in, you might not know how to spell it. So you get the business card, you've got their name, the correct spelling, you've got their email, you've got their title. You don't have any questions. You don't want to have to call the office after the interview, which I had done probably on my first or second interview, to say, I was in there earlier for an interview. I just can't remember the name of the person I interviewed with. So it just makes it so much easier for you. And you do want to send a thank you note. An email or a handwritten note is acceptable. Some people do both. I usually email because it's quick. It's automatic. But don't make the same mistake I have made in the past, where I'm so worried about getting it out so quickly that I don't take the time to reread it and make sure, as I said, no spelling or grammatical errors. You want to definitely take your time, send out a well-written thank you. And what I would recommend when you send a thank you, and this goes for any thank you that you send out, could be personal, think about something interesting that you talked about with that person, and you want to work that into the thank you note. So, I don't know if any of your parents have ever said, if you had to write a thank you note, think about what the person gave you and maybe say something that you're going to do with it. Even if it was money, like, thank you so much for your generous gift. I think I'm going to use that for this whatever that I've wanted for so long. Give a little bit of substance. It doesn't have to be a long letter, but just, thank you so much for the information you shared about the internship program. I thought it was so interesting how you allow students to sit in on your business meetings every week. I look forward to the opportunity to possibly talk with you further about this. I'm very excited about the idea of interning at blah, blah, blah. So always send a thank you. People appreciate that. And it's that extra step that some people don't do. And I've talked to people who say, we had 5 candidates. 3 of them didn't send thank you notes. So let's look at the other 2. Yeah.
And especially if you're dealing with somebody who is on the old, I don't say the older side, but if someone is over 35 years old and you're interviewing with that person, you better send a letter and a thank you, okay, or one or the other, because they're going to be expecting it. I've been talking to people, and if you're interviewing with somebody in their 20s, they don't expect this much as say somebody who's over 35. So my personal opinion, send it regardless of everything, So I'll just want to say.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Okay, so the first impression is made within 5 minutes. They've actually researched this. They've interviewed employers, and I think the stats that they got this from, they had interviewed like 457 employers, and they all were saying, yes, within the first 5 minutes, we make our decision about what we think about that candidate. So keep that in mind. All this stuff I told you about, the firm handshake, the eye contact, that is all going to come into play with what these people are starting to think about you. And I'll also talk about the dress, which also comes into play. So NACE is the National Association of Colleges and Employers. It's a well-known organization for career counselors who are about trying to prep people for getting jobs and all that. They say that 92% of employers have said that the candidate's overall appearance influences their opinion about that candidate. So I know it sounds superficial. We don't control that. People are going to look at how you present yourself, and the way you are dressing for the professional world is definitely going to come into play. So now I'm going to just talk about I'll talk about the men and the women and different things. I wanted to give you some visuals, so when you're thinking about attire, you have ideas of what's acceptable. For the men, in general, if you're going to choose a suit, and suits are great, I would say it's a very good investment. Definitely good to wear to an interview. Once you get the internship, there may be times where you're invited to do something. Maybe they say, we're going to go to a luncheon with this higher up. You pull that suit out. It's definitely a great investment to have at least one. So in general, in the business world, charcoal, navy, or gray are safe bets for colors for your suits. And for the shoes, I would say you're safe with polished black shoes, and I will emphasize polished because if you have an old pair that's worn down, it's not going to look nice with that suit. So make sure if you do have an older pair of shoes that they're well polished. You also want to match your belt with your shoes, so black shoes, black belt, and black dress socks. Brown or burgundy shoes are also acceptable depending on the suit that you choose to wear. But one thing you want to be aware of is you do not want to be throwing on your white tube socks with your suit. And some students have said, well, nobody really sees it. Like my pants hang down low enough, nobody's going to see that. But you're going to sit down for the interview and those pants are going to pull up. And that is the last thing you want someone to see, is that you're wearing white tube socks with your suit. It takes away from the look. So remember, black dress socks, probably the best option for that. Okay, so under your suit, you can't go wrong with a solid white or like a light blue pressed shirt. And these are just some examples of how to put it together. You do want to use like a conservative type of tie. Stripes, I feel like you can't go wrong with stripes. It's just a very basic look. You know, there's a lot of other great options, but when students come to me in a panic and they have no idea, I just tell them go with that diagonal stripe and you can't go wrong. Be careful, because just because it's Christmas time, I doubt any of you guys are going to do this, but you don't want to decide, you know what, I'm really going to stand out because I'm going to wear like a Christmas tie on my interview. They'll probably think that's funny. They're not going to see that. You can do that once you're established and in the company for a long time, but when you're going on an interview, absolutely not. Always think conservative. The other thing in terms of haircuts, you want to be clean and recently trimmed. So my feeling is if you're growing your hair out, you might want to consider cutting it. For that, it'll grow back after you get the opportunity. But when you're going on an interview, you want to be looking clean shaven and trimmed. So anything, I mean, his is a little bit longer on the top, all that's fine, but just make sure it looks neat. As far as facial hair goes, either shave it off and grow it back after you get the opportunity, or just make sure it's neatly trimmed if you do really decide you want to have facial hair. Okay, so for the guys, any questions on what I just showed you? Any comments, thoughts? Yes?
What about like a shirt with like, can the shirt have like one pattern on like that? Or no?
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice shirt. I would say for the interview, I mean, you probably would be okay with that under a suit, but I think it's always safe to go with the white or like a light blue for the interview, and then once you're there, you know, you can wear something like that. But I think that pattern is subtle enough that you would probably be okay, but I always go for safe. Okay, any other questions? That was a good question. No? All right, so we'll talk about the ladies. So a pant or a skirt suit is preferable. You'll notice that the skirt comes down to the knee. I know that it's trendy right now to have a shorter skirt, but it is not acceptable in the professional world. So when you go on an interview, when you go into the office, you should never be wearing a short, tight skirt. These are very conservative looks, a nice blouse underneath. I'll show you on the next slide some other options. I do this. I find it so much easier. A lot of times I'll wear a dress, a one-piece dress with a blazer that matches over it, and then you don't have to worry about, you know, what shirt and how am I going to, you know, coordinate all this, the colors and all that. But the other option is to have a button-down shirt or a nice tank underneath. Again, nothing should be super tight. You want it to fit nicely, and always err on the side of conservative. So as I mentioned, knee length or longer, no extreme slits on the skirts. And then I don't know how many people are still wearing nylons, but if you do, go with a neutral or a skin tone or something sheer. If you're going to do like a black or navy, never darker than your shoes, as we said. And shoes, you want to keep it simple. I would recommend closed-toe shoes as a professional-looking shoe. But you don't want to have a high heel. I would say just a small heel is acceptable and fine. I've had some girls ask me, well, can I wear flats? If they're really tall, sometimes they don't want to wear a heel, and that's fine as long as it's conservative. I mean, I think a little heel looks nice over the flat, but I think it's acceptable to do a flat. And in terms of hair, simple, neat. If you have longer hair, you might want to either tie it back or just make sure it looks well kept. As far as makeup goes, you want to do minimal makeup, neutral tones. You don't want to walk in there with heavy makeup, and that's, you know, if you go on an interview and you're wearing or looking distracting in some way, it takes away from the interview. So just keep it simple. In general, good rule of thumb, keep it simple. Okay. So for the nails, you want them clean, short, either unpolished or like a subtle color. I had spoken to somebody when I had been interviewing for a job, actually. Someone later told me that it came down to me and this other candidate, and one of the things that they brought up that they didn't like about the other candidate, she had wacky color nail polish, and that was something they were counting against her. And I technically never put nail polish on, so I guess that wasn't something I needed to worry about. But again, it was distracting to them, whatever funky thing she did with her fingernails. So keep it simple. And for jewelry, I always, as you see, just go with like the pearl studs and a little necklace. And you can get these, not the real ones, at a very cheap price. It's not like you have to spend a ton of money on pearls. So I always think that's simple. But if you aren't into pearls and you want just, again, nothing big, gaudy, heavy, no dangling earrings, just studs is what I would recommend, or a very small hoop. Okay, so this is for both women and men. If you have a tattoo, make sure it's covered when you go for the interview. If you have piercings in your nose, your mouth, wherever, they should be removed before that interview. And when you go to the internship, you may also want to be removing that when you're on the site. You know, it just, again, doesn't come off as professional. And I don't know if any of you smoke, but it's definitely not something you want to be doing right before you go on an interview. The smell might be distracting to the person who's sitting across the table from you. And again, you're not looking to have anything standing out that may work against you. You never know who the person is that's sitting across the table, and if they just can't stand the smell of smoke, the odds that they're going to recommend that you get hired for that internship are probably slim. So I would not, if you really are a smoker, make sure you get it out of your system, take your shower quick, and head to your interview, because a lot of times it's on the clothes and it's very obvious. Same with chewing gum. It's distracting. It's just not professional when you go on an interview. And even perfume and cologne, you want to be careful with that, because it could be that the person who's interviewing you has allergies to certain scents. I know I had one of my friends from college had came to visit me, and I'm like all into my fall candle scents, and she walked in and she was like, "Oh my gosh, can you please put that candle out? Like, I can't, it gives me a headache, the smell." Well, same thing, when you go on an interview, you don't know what the person sitting across from you is like. So they may be very upset that you walked into their office, closed the door, and now they're getting a headache. And now, how well are they really listening to you when you answer their questions if all they're thinking is, "Oh my gosh, my head is killing me. I can't wait to get this person out of the office." And so what might happen in your internship, or once you get a job, or if you're invited to a nice event, sometimes they will tell you, you don't have to dress in professional attire. Business casual is acceptable. And I feel like a lot of people have no idea what is business casual. So I just wanted to give some visuals. Business casual could be, sometimes they have Jean Fridays, so you wear a nice top. It doesn't mean you want to have like the ripped jeans. I know that's trendy, but it's not acceptable in the office. A nice cardigan with a shirt. You could wear a skirt or pants, but you can kind of get an idea from this. It's not that corporate business suit, but it's very put together, neat look. And when you're talking about it for the men, you could wear a sports coat. You might wear a sweater over a button down. The golf tees, if it's warm weather outside, that's acceptable as well. But, keep it nice, a nice pair of trouser pants. And the same thing, like if it's Jean Friday, like you could see this guy, I think has jeans on, just a nice button down shirt. Keeps it still professional, but more casual. Okay, so those are my main tips for the Dress for Success. What do you guys think? Does anybody have any thoughts, comments, questions? Yes.
Can you wear high boots?
To an interview?
Or just like in general?
When you get the internship, you mean? That's something you should ask your supervisor, because definitely not on an interview, you don't want to wear high boots. But if you get the internship and, you start to get to know the people there, you can say, is that acceptable? Or you might notice that the people you're working with are coming in with high boots, then it's okay. But if all else fails, have a conversation with your supervisor and just ask them, because they'll tell you, what, dress code, we don't allow that here. It's better than you just showing up and them kind of like, "Oh gosh, we got to have a conversation with her about this attire." It's probably better to get it out before you show up. You know what I mean? But that's a good question. Any other questions? Have you guys ever run into anything? Yes.
What about leggings or yoga pants?
No. None of that should be worn to the workplace. Again, they should be telling you they might forget, because I know I sometimes forget when I'm talking to people who are going to be in my office, but they should probably tell you what the dress code is. Usually the most relaxed is going to be like Jean Friday. And again, that doesn't mean wear your ripped jeans. That means you can wear jeans and a nice shirt. Leggings, I don't think are ever acceptable. Unless you're working in the gym, then maybe they're fine with that. But no. And when all else fails, just think, okay, is this conservative? And if you don't feel like it, or if you think maybe someone's going to question it, probably better not to do it then. You don't want to take that risk and then have them thinking to themselves, "Oh gosh, this kid is coming in and blah, 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 blah." Because that's going to make it uncomfortable for them, because now they're going to either have the conversation, or worse yet, they might not have the conversation. But in the meantime, they're kind of counting that against you. So always check or err on the side of caution. If it feels like it might be borderline like acceptable, then don't do it. Okay. Any other questions? I'm just going to show you guys a quick video clip. Let's hope
for years. The better you dress at work, the better you'll be perceived, and the quicker you'll advance. To learn more about the importance of dressing well at the office, we spoke to a veteran human resources consultant.
Good, bad, right, or wrong, I've seen numerous instances where people got promoted that tended to dress better. People don't realize how important dressing is. I think we tend to think, oh, it's dumb, it's really not that important, who cares? Well, it's kind of like a resume. With clothing, it's the very first impression someone will get of you before you even have a chance to open your mouth.
For an insider's take on the right outfits for your profession, we spoke to a fashion representative at Theory's flagship store in New York City.
For men dressing in the corporate setting, I think a suit is always the best option. Here we have a dark navy suit. The dark suit's great just because it's really versatile and you'll always be able to wear it, whether it's for an interview, a board meeting, or any work-appropriate occasion. For a man to dress in a less corporate setting, I think separates are a great way to go. For example, here we have a navy cardigan with a button down and a tie, and you can really wear it without the tie if you want to for a less corporate look. Wearing the khaki pant with any sort of button down is a great option for casual dressing at the office. It's put together, but it's still relaxed. If you're questioning something that you want to wear and you're not sure if it's right, it probably isn't. If it's too shiny, if it's too tight, if it's too big, I probably just wouldn't recommend wearing it. For women dressing in a corporate setting, I would recommend a suit. Here we have a great fitted blazer, a button-down shirt, and a trouser pant. It's really put together, it's easy, and it looks really professional at the same time. But another option, if you don't want to wear a suit, is separates. Something like a great cardigan like this, with a button-down shirt and a pencil skirt, is still professional, but a little bit more relaxed, and great for the office. Another casual option at the office is a pair of khaki pants. We have these straight leg pants that are great with a little tie-neck top like this, for a little novelty and a little fashion, but still work appropriate. Two other great casual options are shift dresses. What's great about shift dresses is that you can wear them underneath the blazer to work for an interview, or you can wear them just as they are. This one is great with a white button down underneath it, or this one's great too just alone. Some fashion faux-pas for women to look out for in the workplace are really anything that's too much of anything. Whether it's too short, too tight, too revealing, too low cut, you should really stay away from wearing anything like that.
I definitely think one should be thinking about wearing your best for an interview. I go by the rule, you're better off to tend to be a little bit more conservative in an interview than to go the other way around, unless you know specifically that they're looking at you for your creativity. Say you were going to interview in an advertising agency that's hiring you to be a creative person. There, you may decide to be a little bit more outlandish because that's what they're hiring you to do. The important part here is to be appropriate for the setting you're in.
Let's hope I can get out of this now. I try to escape. It's not actually bottom right. Okay. Thank you. So, I mean, one of the things that she said there that I forgot to mention to you guys was, if you are down the road, if you're going for a creative, let's say you want to get into advertising, you may then be a little bit more creative. You might add a little more flair to what you're wearing. But if you're going for more a corporate role, finance, accounting, if you know the company is more conservative, you should be thinking in terms of what they would be expecting of you, which is going to be more conservative. Yeah. So we're running out of time, but anybody have any quick questions before? No? I thank you very much for your time. Hopefully you got something out of this, and maybe we'll see. Well, I might see you next year.
You will see.
I will see you next year.
Thank you.
Okay.